Alright, hello, and welcome to another Looney video. With there being 1,000 shorts during the original run of Looney Tunes, there's bound to be some stinkers in there. And I'm not just talking about Pepe Le Pew. It goes without saying, obviously any of the DePatie Flynn era of shorts are going to be worse than any cartoon from the late 30s, the 40s, and the 50s. Saying the Bunny and Claude or Merlin the Magic Mouse, along with the many odd Daffy Duck and Speedy Gonzales shorts from the 60s are bad, it's just like saying water is wet. It's just too easy. But I came across an old blog post from respected animation historian Jerry Beck, who, for those that don't know, is a hugely important person within the world of animation, with him helping no end to get many shorts restored and onto physical media. He has done so many commentaries on the DVDs, particularly the Golden Collection, so his opinion on what his least favourite shorts were cannot be taken lightly. I thought I'd take a look at what shorts he has highlighted as his least favourites, and I'll either agree or disagree, and we'll give a few alternate takes for ones I don't particularly care for. Keeping in mind, I'll also try to stick to choices which are not easy fodder. We'll start with 3 shorts Jerry picked as not being a big fan of.
Time's running short, isn't it, John? It's almost dawn. Soon the sun will be coming up.
Starting with Each Dawn I Crow from 1949, directed by Friz Freleng. This dark, twisted short written by Ted Pierce parodies a radio show called The Whistler. The show featured an ominous narrator who would comment on the proceedings of each episode. Each Dawn I Crow is about John the Rooster, a happy-go-lucky rooster, who is psychologically fooled into believing the farmer Elmer is getting ready to chop his head off. Our narrator, Frank Graham, who had a devilishly deep booming voice, is the one convincing John of his impending doom, making a sense of unease throughout the short.
And soon the church bells will be chiming.
This is mostly why Jerry is not a fan, with the tone being too dark for his enjoyment. Now, I'm not going to say this is an all-time great, but I think it's a solid enough short, kind of like a mid-tier cartoon. Admittedly, it's a bit out of place, and probably not one to show the kids, otherwise they may end up getting nightmares.
It's going to hitch.
Papa.
Up next, we have Strife with Father from 1950, directed by Bob McKimpson. Beaky Buzzard returns after a 5-year absence. His absence was mostly because at this point his creator Bob Clampett had left Warner Brothers, and his original voice actor had sadly passed away. But there was enough popularity with his character that the studio must have wanted him to return, because weirdly, Friz Flynn also directed a Beaky Buzzard short in the same year, titled The Line's Busy. In Strife with Father though, Beaky is accidentally delivered to the home of 2 sparrows, who speak with a distinguished upper-class English accent.
Beaky, what makes you so incredibly stupid?
Ooh, shucks. I get around.
It ends up being the father, Monty, who has to teach Beaky how to hunt. Jerry mostly does not enjoy the Monty character, which I agree is an odd choice. I assume it's a parody of someone, which can age the short quite a bit when you don't quite get the reference. Not sure why they didn't try and team up Beaky with a more obvious foil, like a certain rooster that McKimpson was known for. But that isn't the only reason why this one isn't well loved. Mel Blanc tries his best to voice Beaky, but it's hard to match Kent Rogers' voice, and it just doesn't quite feel the same. So yeah, I do agree with Jerry, this one really is low-tier Looney Tunes.
I suppose you're expecting the Roadrunner. Well, he sprained the giblet cornering a sharp curve the other day, so I'm standing in for him.
Up next, we have Hairbreadth Hurry from 1963, directed by Chuck Jones. A Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner style short, but with no Roadrunner. He is replaced by Bugs Bunny in this short. Now, Wile E and Bugs had previously been paired together in shorts like Operation Rabbit, To Hair Is Human, and Rabbit's Feet. But each of those, Wile E has a speaking role, and the tone of the shorts are very different. The theory of why this short exists is probably more interesting than the short itself. It is widely believed they had some animated segments for an anticipated TV show, The Adventures of the Roadrunner, where Bugs would likely introduce each episode. But the show ended up being cancelled, which is probably why this one feels very out of place and a bit of a mishmash. Jerry's comments on this short is that the fourth wall break-in does feel very unusual. It maybe could have worked better if Wile E had a speaking role, and it was more in the style of the Wile E and Bugs shorts they had previously made. It's worth watching as a bit of a curiosity, but probably Chuck Jones' weakest Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner short, as it doesn't have any Roadrunner, so is it a Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner short? It's very confusing. Now we move on to Jerry's 5 picks for his worst of the worst. These 5 being the bottom of the barrel, according to Jerry Beck. So let's see how many I agree or disagree with. Up first is Goodnight Elmer from 1940, directed again by Chuck Jones. This was the peak of Slow Jones, his slower-paced, more Disney-inspired cartoon era. It stars Elmer in a non-speaking role, and a flame that refuses to be extinguished. As someone that has frequently suffered with being unable to fall asleep, I emphasise with Elmer. Jerry's main criticism is the slow pacing and just how dull the cartoon is. Which, yeah, I can see that. But for me, it's honestly a really cosy cartoon, one that's better watched on a cool winter's evening. It's very similar to Bedtime for Sniffles, also from 1940, which again is often not among the most popular Looney Tunes shorts, but one again I quite enjoy as a comforting warm blanket on a cold evening. In Goodnight Elmer, there's some great pantomime. The use of lighting and the music is wonderful. I will have to disagree with Jerry Beck. I cannot put Goodnight Elmer in the worst of the worst.
Boy, listen to that! They love me!
Now we are showing you Fire Prevention Headquarters. Oh, Sonagon, too late.
Now we have Tokyo Jokyo from 1943, directed by Norm McCabe. Norm had the unfortunate task during World War II, which was to mostly only be allowed to direct propaganda shorts, which means his cartoons tend to not really age too well, and are generally now all in the public domain. They don't tend to get restored unlike the other directors' work, and I can't imagine Tokyo Jokyo is at the top of the list in terms of getting a modern restoration. Now, not all of his work was as heavy-handed with the propaganda. Confusions of a Nazi Spy and The Ductators are both generally received favourably. Tokyo Jokyo, as the title suggests, is an anti-Japanese propaganda short, as of course Japan and the US were in direct conflict during World War II, so a lot of the jokes are just an attack on the Japanese people, with the usual negative stereotypes you'd often see in cartoons from this period.
In a world of sports.
Jerry rightly points out in his review that the short highlights ugly racial caricatures of the Japanese. The whole joke of the film seems to rest on how offensive each gag can be, and none of them are funny. This would also be Norm's last short he directed at Warner's, as after this short he would be drafted into the army. But yeah, I can't argue with this one. It's certainly among the worst of the worst.
Ingrate.
I got him! I'm rid of the crow! Rid of the crow.
You missed me.
Next in the foreign line is Corn Plastered from 1951, directed by Bob McKimpson. This was one of many random one-off shorts from McKimpson that would be located on a farm. Others including A Fox in a Fix and Easy Peckins. Both used a one-off fox character. Corn Plastered, however, stars a rather annoying crow character and a cranky old farmer. And I honestly don't really know who you're supposed to be rooting for in this short, because both are pretty unlikable. Jerry's main point of contention is the crow character though, and his very annoying voice, which was provided by Pat Patrick, a radio personality, doing a voice from one of his characters. Although, it's not quite the most annoying in my book, it is a rather grating voice, especially his laugh at the start of the cartoon. There is still some enjoyable moments in this one. I actually laughed at the fridge segment, with the crow tricking the farmer into getting into the fridge to check if the light turns off when the door is shut. Jerry points out he hated this moment in his review. Also, unlike the crow, who has quite an annoying voice, we still do have the master Mel Blanc who voices the farmer. Kind of similar sounding in a way to Foghorn Leghorn, but still unique, which is crazy considering how many characters he voiced, and he still comes up with unique voices. I would say this isn't among the worst. It's not a great one, but I would say it's mid-tier.
Elmer Fuddstone.
Oh no, not him.
Shh. Be very, very quiet. Me hunt saber-toothed rabbit.
Oh no. Up next is Prehistorical Hair from 1958, directed by Bob McKimpson. Yeah, I'm really going to struggle to defend this one. It's honestly... nothing in this short works at all. It's set in the prehistoric times, although even then it's confusing, because originally the cartoon starts in modern times, until Bugs randomly stumbles upon a projector and watches a documentary set in prehistoric times, with a saber-toothed rabbit and Elmer Fuddlestone. I mean, why not just start the cartoon from there? The whole opening feels very pointless. But my main gripe with this short is the really distracting voice of Elmer Fudd, now played by Dave Barry. I'm sure he was doing his best, but it's a really bad amateur impression of Elmer Fudd.
Oh, drat that blasted rabbit. Where is he?
Those smart hunters are never no match for us dumb rabbits.
That's what you think, rabbit.
Hal Smith would take on the role in Doggone People, and again, it wasn't great, but it was a slight improvement. They really did struggle to replace Arthur Q. Bryan. Jerry points out that this was, bar none, the worst Bugs Bunny cartoon. Unfunny, unappealing, in fact, downright ugly. And again, I fully agree. It's really not a good looking cartoon from any aspect. The art style, the stilted animation, the character designs. It is certainly among the worst of the worst, and might even be literally the worst.
Boo! Boo! Boo!
You yellow-livered swine hunt. I'm a-gonna count to 3, and if you don't come out, I'm a-coming in after you. 1, 2...
Now we have Dumb Patrol from 1964, directed by Jerry Chenoweth. A very rare Bugs Bunny and Yosemite Sam short, not directed by Friz Freleng, and also a rare pairing of both Bugs and Yosemite Sam with Porky Pig. Even more bizarrely is Porky does not talk in this cartoon, and just disappears after the opening act. It feels pointless him even being here. His role could have just been a generic soldier that Bugs takes the place of. It felt just like a very shoehorned cameo and a lot of wasted potential. There is a lot of reused gags from previous cartoons, such as Sam demanding his plane to whoa, just like in Sahara Hair, where he demands the camel to whoa. The sound effects as well are pretty basic in this one, as budgets in the 1960s were getting very, very low. In Jerry's review, he points out that Bugs also isn't really in the cartoon that much, as Sam does kind of steal the show, but I am a big Sam fan, so I'm actually okay with that. There are plenty of good Sam moments, just as long as you go into this one not expecting to see too much of Bugs Bunny or Porky Pig, then you might not be disappointed. I still personally don't mind this one. Just go into it with pretty low expectations, since it is a later in the series cartoon. It gets a pass from me, and is not among the worst of the worst.
What's up, Doc?
Now we have a special segment where Jerry denounces all of the infamously bad Rudy Larriva 11 Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner shorts, with Chuck Jones having been fired by Warner's in 1962 after he moonlighted for other studios. Warner still wanted to make more Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner shorts, as they were among the most popular and were economically pretty cheap to make and straightforward. Originally, a few directors were given shared responsibilities, with 1965's The Great Chase being directed by the capable hands of Friz Freleng and Hawley Pratt. And it's a fun, albeit unusual take on the formula, with Friz using some of his favourite creations, with Sylvester and Speedy Gonzales joining the action as a bit of a crossover. Then also in 1965, you have Russian Roulette, directed by Bob McKimpson. Again, not a bad Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner, pretty formulaic and standard, but not bad. Before eventually they handed the task to Rudy Larriva, and these are infamous for a reason. They have terrible timing, awful sound effects. The unwritten rules are seemingly thrown completely out the window. A factor in why these were so bad is how many they were making. All 11 of Rudy Larriva's Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner shorts were released within the span of 1965 to 1966, so 11 cartoons in the span of just over a year. You can see why the quality was not good at all. And yes, an obvious agreement on this one. They are all the worst of the worst. So now that was Jerry Beck's choices for the worst of Looney Tunes. While I agreed with some of them, I didn't agree with all of them. So here are my own alternate picks for my least favourite Looney Tunes shorts. Bearing in mind I didn't include any of the censored 11, or cheetah cartoon / clip show type formats, and none of the DePatie Flynn era, as that is too obvious.
I'm looking for a worm for your supper.
Early worm?
No, not an early worm. When I get through with him, he'll be the late worm. Ha ha!
My first pick is Quentin Quayle, a 1946 short directed by Chuck Jones. I mean, first of all, the title is a play on San Quentin Quayle, which is a term for an underage woman considered attractive by adult men. Yeah. No thank you. The character of Toots in this short has one of the most annoying personalities and voices of any Looney Tunes character.
I don't want to eat him. I can't eat him.
Thank God this didn't become a regular thing. Her constant whining and wanting a worm, nothing in this short is funny. It's just a real dud from Jones.
Hippity hop to the barber shop. Hippity hop, hippity hop.
Next up is Hop and Go, a 1943 short directed by Norm McCabe. It is notable for having the voice of Pinto Colvig, who would be most well known for voicing Goofy over at Disney. Here he plays Claude Hopper, who is messed around by some Scottish rabbits, for some reason. Before the short takes a very strange turn, where Claude drops a bomb on Tokyo, which, considering what happened at Hiroshima during the war, does make it a bit of a rough moment. Admittedly, the new restoration of this short does look really good, as originally when I saw this one it was an unrestored copy where the audio levels were really low, but it doesn't quite save it enough, as still this is among my least favourite cartoons.
Oh, it's that stork again! I'll give that stork a reception he won't forget!
Next we have Stork Naked from 1955, directed by Friz Freleng. This was Daffy at his worst. At this point they are really pushing his personality into the greedier and more cynical side. With Daffy being one of my favourite characters, this one just feels too mean-spirited, and just too out of character for Daffy. At least in other shorts from this time, you'd still see glimpses of his wacky personality, but in this one, there's nothing. He is misogynistic and very unlikable. Just never been one I enjoy, unfortunately.
Ostriches, when frightened, bury their heads in the sand to hide themselves.
Hey, where is everybody?
Now we have Aviation Vacation, a 1941 short directed by Tex Avery. A rare miss from Avery. This spotlight gag short is all about travel. Only problem is, not a single joke is funny in this one, which is very unusual for Tex.
1, 2, breathe deeply. 1, 2, breathe.
Next is I've Got to Sing a Torch Song from 1933, directed under the very short tenure of Tom Palmer at Warner Brothers, whose only other credit was the creation of Buddy in Buddy's Day Out. Neither of these are good by any standard, but I've Got to Sing a Torch Song was so bad it cost him his job, with Friz coming in and having to try and salvage what he could. But there really isn't a lot you can do. The caricatures are so bad that even if you know who they're supposed to be parodying, it's still not clear at all. And so many of the parodies again are very obscure. It's no wonder Tom Palmer didn't last long at Warner Brothers.
All heard of the Vanishing American and the Vanishing Head, and here now for the first time, I'll present to you the Vanishing Cream. Now I see it, now you don't, see?
For my final pick, I have two cartoons. Little Blabbermouse and Shop Look and Listen, both from 1940 and both directed by Friz Freleng. They are virtually the same cartoon with the same issues. That being Little Blabbermouse. He is the most annoying Looney Tunes character ever created.
I don't know, I didn't do anything. All I did was stand here. If you don't want me to go, just say so.
Okay, skip it.
Okay, you could argue he is supposed to be annoying, but that does not stop him from grating on my nerves anytime he opens his mouth. The jokes in this one as well are mostly recycled. They have been done previously in the same concept of cartoons of things coming to life after dark. Thankfully, Little Blabbermouse only starred in these two cartoons. Otherwise, I might have had to rip my hair out. But there we go. That was a little look into the lesser enjoyed Looney Tunes shorts. They are not the worst cartoons ever made. Just by the standard of Looney Tunes, they're just not the ones I enjoy as much. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Which ones do you agree or disagree with? Are there any that I missed and were not on Jerry Beck's list or on my own list that you consider to be among the worst? Let me know. But for now, take care and leave me alone.